House of the Dragon Season 3 has reached its conclusion, which means it's time for us to talk about it. Now, I'm someone who enjoyed both Season 1 and Season 2 of the show. I thought Season 1 started off really strong in a way that almost surprised me, as I was not expecting this spin-off of Game of Thrones to have me nearly as compelled and interested as I was. And while a lot of people did not like Season 2, I was very much still positive on it. It did start to have some negatives in the sense that maybe the pacing was a bit slow, and it did feel like we were dragging some things out, but overall, I was still very positive, and I could not wait for Season 3. Well, now, we are here, my friends, and if I'm gonna be honest, I feel like this show has officially hit a wall. Because while many people tried to warn me during Season 2, I didn't listen, and now, what they warned me about has come to pass. Now that we're in Season 3, all of the issues that people had with the pacing of the show, with storylines being dragged out, I think has really been felt by me for the first time. Where now, it just feels like the show is kind of milking this. Like when we got through Season 1 and it ended without a real payoff, it was like, okay, that's fine. Season 1 is a build-up season. And then we got to Season 2, and it was still kind of just a build-up season. Okay? But then we got to Season 3, and it still feels like we're doing build-up. Like, dude, the show is edging us. And I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that we, as the audience, know, inevitably, this entire show is going to come down to Rhaenyra finally going up against her two green brothers, Aegon and Aemond. Like, all these other side quests that she's taking care of, all these other characters that she's battling, makes the show feel weirdly inconsequential, because we all know that until she confronts Aegon and Aemond, this conflict is never actually going to come to a resolution. And we actually get to see this pretty early on in the season. Like, one of the most baffling moments that kind of perfectly encapsulates what's going wrong with the show is when Rhaenyra shows up to King's Landing and finds out Aegon is not here. Like, oh, that was her whole plan. She was going to find Aegon. She was going to kill him. And when she realized that Aegon's not there, guess what she does? She says, you know what? I'll just chop off somebody else's head. And she kills Otto Hightower? Like, why? Seriously, what does this achieve at all? And this to me is the perfect representation of what went wrong with the show, because it demonstrates how characters will do things in the show just for the plot. Like, it actually solves nothing, it gets them no closer to their goals, and even the show knows this, because after she kills Otto Hightower, the very next episode, she talks about how her claim will never be secure until she kills Aegon and Aemond. So what did you kill Otto for? And this leads to a show where, on the surface, it might feel like so many things are happening, right? We had a big battle at the beginning of the season in the Gullet. We have a big battle at the end of the season in Tumbletown, or whatever it's called. And yet, when you really pause and think about it for a second, nothing of any consequence is actually taking place here. Like, by the end of the season, we are very much still in the same position that we were in at the beginning of the season. Characters might have moved around their locations, like Rhaenyra is now in King's Landing as opposed to being at Dragonstone, but still, the point being that we are waiting for the inevitable conflict, the conflict that is actually important in the show between Rhaenyra and her two green brothers, and by the end of the season, we are still waiting. And I want to be clear, this season isn't a disaster. It has its high moments, it has its high points. It's not like Game of Thrones Season 8, where that season actively made decisions that ruined the entire thing. Like, this season doesn't do that. And I still have hope that come Season 4, they could end this show off on a really high note. It's just that right now, it feels like the show is spinning our wheels, because the two characters that are actually important and central to this conflict have both been sidelined for the entire season. Like, Aemond spends the entire season in his Daemon Season 2 bag, just chilling at Harrenhal with the witch, and Aegon spends the entire season on the road. And again, it's not to say that there's no good moments in here. Like, specifically with Aegon's plot, I thought that was hilarious, which we're going to get to in a second, but it creates this unfortunate situation where everything else that's happening in the show, at King's Landing, or at Tumbletown, or in Oldtown, just feels like a bunch of noise. A bunch of stuff that's happening that doesn't meaningfully affect the plot in any real way. To give it a comparison, this is very much like Severance Season 2. A season that has its high moments, and by the end of it, you're still very excited about where the show is going to go in the future, but at the same time, a season that is far too long and dragged out for its own good. A season that for every great moment, there's about 10 filler moments to weigh it down. And it's led me to the conclusion after watching the season that House of the Dragon as a story just did not need 4 seasons to tell. Now, maybe after I see the 4th season, I'll change my mind. Like, maybe so much will go down in season 4 that it'll actually end up feeling rushed, and I'll go, oh no, it did need 4 seasons, but they just needed to better distribute the plot across those seasons. But as of right now, through 3 seasons, I just feel like we're kind of milking this. We're dragging the show out, and honestly, a lot of this just feels like we're kind of spinning our wheels. Now, to go into some of the more specific storylines and characters throughout the season, like I touched on earlier, I guess let's start with Aegon. Now, at first, his storyline with Larys, I was kind of bored of. Like, how many times can we cut back to a scene of Aegon just whining and moping the whole time? But as the season went on, I can't lie, this dude is growing on me. And I think a lot of that has to do with the acting performance, where Aegon is just so hilarious and over the top, and in a weird way, he's like the comedic relief of this show. And I think seeing this character, who historically in the series has been so privileged, be taken down to earth makes it a lot easier to root for him. And you know what? I guess that kind of applies to the Greens in general this season. Like, Alicent just spends the whole 8 episodes getting smacked around, to the point where you honestly do start feeling bad for her. And honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I might be Team Green now. I was always Team Black so far in this show, but seeing all of them just get punched in the face for 8 episodes straight, while Rhaenyra has become increasingly more unlikable, I really feel like I might be switching teams here. Now, when it comes to Rhaenyra, you obviously understand where she's coming from with the death of her son at the beginning of the season, which, first of all, I just gotta say, Emma Darcy's acting performance in episode 2 of the season, when she's grieving her son's death, some of the best acting I've ever seen, oh my god. But as the season goes on, man, I do not like this character. And I guess maybe that's what the show is going for, that she is turning into a villain here, and I will say, in terms of that story arc, they're doing a much better job than the original Game of Thrones show did with Daenerys. But at the same time, it puts the show overall in a difficult spot, where there's just not that many characters to root for. Like, Rhaenyra was the one pure-hearted soul in the show, always trying to avoid war. She was always trying to sue for peace, and with her now being corrupted as well, I feel like I'm sometimes watching a show with a bunch of characters, and I don't like any of them. And obviously, it's not like Game of Thrones was ever a show with a bunch of upstanding people, but there was enough characters in there that you could always find someone to get behind, whereas here, I feel like I'm watching this, and I don't like any of you guys. Speaking of characters I used to like, Criston Cole. Remember when Criston Cole was kind of a cool dude? Like, in season 1, I liked this guy. And then he slept with Rhaenyra, he absolutely lost his mind at a wedding, and his character just never recovered. Like, ever since then, he's just been this slimy, weird loser, and that all just reached its absolute peak this season, where I seriously don't know how many more monologues I could take from Cole about his desire to die as a warrior, or how his fate has been sealed. Okay, the only thing that should be sealed is his mouth. I will say, though, this did make his death incredibly satisfying in episode 6, which, to me, is clearly the best episode of the entire season. I thought it was brilliant how they executed it, from having the surprise attack on Cole's army, where you have all these dead men lying on the ground, and then all of a sudden they just wake up. That was insane. And then having Cole, after an entire season of giving speeches and building up how he wanted to die as a warrior, he just gets shot with an arrow in the most anticlimactic way and is just dead on the battlefield before the fighting even begins. Just a perfect poetic end to his character. Now, I guess who you could say is the main villain of the season, Ormond Hightower, was very interesting. Because I started off the season and I was really liking Ormond. He showed some cleverness with the way he deceived Daemon by sending the wrong boy in place of Daeron. I was like, okay, this dude seems cool. He seems... oh... He's not cool. The dude turned out to be a total psychopath, which, I mean, it's Game of Thrones. I probably should have seen that coming. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have Helaena. Poor, sweet Helaena. A character who didn't have much to do in the first 2 seasons, but I thought was actually kind of a standout this time around. I thought the actress who played her did a really good job this season. And to be fair, she probably would have done great in season 1 and 2 as well. It's just that she didn't have much to work with there. But here, she does provide some really nice heart, in contrast to the misery of every other character that's in King's Landing, which, of course, means she was gonna die, okay? We can't have nice things here. So all in all, guys, I think House of the Dragon Season 3 was probably the worst season of the show so far. That's not to say it didn't have its moments. There were several great acting performances. A lot of the endings to the episodes were actually really great endings. But overall, it just felt like a season where we were really spinning our wheels. A lot of the events taking place felt pretty inconsequential, which made it hard to care about. And even just the sheer amount of characters that we now have that frankly the show has failed to get me invested in really feels like it's weighing this thing down. But these are just my thoughts on the season. Whatever you guys thought about it, let me know down in the comments. As always, click somewhere on the screen to watch another video, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.